Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to Dingo Talk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? Welcome back. We are staying in the PAC this week with Coach Scott Benzel from Westminster, also a graduate of Plum, so he has a special connection to me. So we're going to talk about some things back home, get to know his personality, why he chose to go to Mercyhurst, and then this guy, everywhere he's gone as a football coach, he's been successful to the tune of Wittenberg, Robert Morris, St. Francis, and then finding his way as the head coach at Westminster, now entering, I believe, his 9th season as head coach there. We're also going to explore what's so important about the PAC, why Division III, and what separates Westminster from the other schools in the President's Athletic Conference. And again, like I said, we're going to have a couple conversations about what life was like growing up in Plum Borough. But without further ado, this is Scott Benzel.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is Westminster head football coach Scott Benzel. Welcome, fellow Mustang, to Dingo Talk.
Appreciate you having me, Carlo. Thanks for getting me up here this evening.
Absolutely. So let's take you back. We'll take you back to Regency, 1993. How does a kid from Plum Borough, Pennsylvania, make his way to Mercyhurst?
Probably like you. I just grew up loving the game, so it was just never a thought that I wasn't gonna continue to play football. So I was fortunate enough to start, midget football when that's what we called it then, 7 years old, and just everything I ever did. So I wasn't, the biggest, fastest, strongest guy, most athletic guy, but I had a lot of desire, and I just loved the game. So unfortunately, my senior year, I ended up breaking my ankle at Gateway. So I had about 4 or 5 games left. So it certainly left a unfinished taste in my mouth. So, did enough, I guess, to get some interest in recruiting and an opportunity to look at probably a lot of the local schools that I currently, recruit against now, to be honest with you. And another Mustang, as you will, was up there by the name of Ray Maselli at Mercyhurst, and was a friend of mine, and really enjoyed the college and liked the guy that was recruiting me, a guy named Dave Curtis, and the head coach Joe Kimball had just started there, so he was brand new to the team. So I like that too, and it was just a good feel for me, and I was blessed to get a chance to continue to play college football.
So, and a lot of people, I learned this just before we started the show. So Mercyhurst now sits in the PSAC. When you were at Mercyhurst, they were an independent school in Division II. How did that work out?
Yeah, it was interesting. We didn't have quote unquote a conference. So what we did was we scheduled anybody we could. So we essentially had to schedule 10 out of conference games, and we took on a varied group. We from anything from Division IIIs to 1AA schools, and we played them everywhere. And so for us, it was just a chance to go out and compete week in and week out. And sometimes we'd see teams 2 years in a row, and other times we'd play them one and done. And there was a few that we actually ended up playing, multiple years or every year that I was there. So it was, for me, it was just another opportunity to play. And, we had some good years there, and we certainly had some good teams, and we had some average teams as well. But the love of the game was really the thing that all of us had in common. And, we played at the old Erie Vet Stadium, which was cool. It was right in the city. I liked that atmosphere. We actually my senior year was our first year they had the field on campus. And at that time, it wasn't anything too impressive, to be honest with you. I actually liked the Vet better because it was just it looked like a college football stadium. But yeah, enjoyed my 4 years. Was fortunate enough to, end up starting 3 years, and had a really good career.
Yeah, I would say you led the team twice in interceptions and pass breakups, and not only that on the athletic side, academically you went for a bachelor's in marketing. Why was
Mhm.
marketing what you wanted to go to school for from the beginning? Was that a path that you wanted to take, or did that come to you while you were in school?
To be honest with you, Carlo, my mom was a nurse, and my dad, he went to the Navy, so there wasn't this grand understanding of what to major in and how to major in. I just actually at Plum High School I did DECA. I liked business school. Heck, we used to work in a school store. It's funny, but that's what we used to do, and I always did well in it. I like doing presentations. I like the marketing aspect of it, and I might sound like a little bit of a nerd, but I actually really enjoyed college. I enjoyed learning. I love the classes. I always liked school a lot. I just enjoyed the experience there, and so yeah, marketing was just kind of a natural thing for me, and ultimately it led me to my first job out of college, which was in sales. So
So when you leave Mercyhurst in 1997, do you go directly to Robert Morris to pursue your as a GA to pursue your coaching career, or is there a job first?
no, there's multiple jobs. My first job out of college, I moved to Mobile, Alabama. I worked for a car insurance uh, company down there. I just got in my Mazda 323 hatchback with 200,000 miles, and loaded up my meager belongings and headed south. I was spending 4 years in Erie in the winter. I was ready for warm weather, and I went there. From there, I got another job. My responsibility was traveling the state in Mississippi, so it was a completely different world for me, a whole different culture. From there, I got hired by another company. These are like chronologically 97, 98. Then I went to Orlando, Florida, worked there. From Orlando, they moved me to Atlanta. I was in Atlanta for less than a month, which was crazy. They relocated me immediately to another office in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, where ironically enough, another Plum Mustang had a big impact in my life by the name of Mike Miller. Mike grew up in Regency Park. Mike, if you're familiar with, was former offense coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals. At that time, he was with the Buffalo Bills with Coach Malarkey. And Carlo, the real story there is when September 11th happened, our company, Annixter, laid off about 40% of their sales force nationally. Okay. So as I walked into the office, when 9/11 happened that day, I was let go. I was told that they were making some cuts, and this was sort of why the Y2K sector, all the tech sector, had really taken a really turn south. So there was a lot of companies losing a lot of money. And so I was out of phone, out of car, out of computer, out of job, and I contacted Mike and said, my passion is football. I'd love to get in the game. If you have any recommendations for me, please keep me in mind. And this was really before cell phones. So the next time I heard from Mike, I was in California for one of my cousin's weddings, and I was at the Santa Monica Public Library, and he sent me an email. And got hired at Robert Morris, interviewed at Robert Morris in 2001 in December, and they hired me for the 2002-2003 season, and that's when I started my coaching career.
And you also you go to Robert Morris now. And was it always the plan to get your master's while you were there, or that just kind of worked out with it being there?
One more time, I'm sorry.
When you when you went to Robert Morris, because that is where you got your master's from in business admin. Was that
Mhm.
just a happy coincidence of Robert Morris being where you got the job, or was that kind of part of the plan as well?
Oh, to get my MBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, to get my MBA was the one of the main motivators for me. The I didn't know if I would love coaching. You always think oh, this is going to be awesome, or but you don't know. I mean, I'd never coached before, so the piece of advice I was given from Coach Miller and Coach Rach, who's actually a Westminster guy, who's with the Colts,
Mm-hmm.
was recruit. And so I went in and told Coach Walton and Coach Radakovich at the time that I knew nothing about football that they didn't already know, and that I was never going to teach them anything about football, but I would recruit as hard as I could and get them players. And I said, look, if I can do about $1.5 million in sales, I can certainly recruit 18-year-old kids to come to college. And I guess they believed me. And that was kind of how I got involved with it. And Carlo, I was really, really blessed. I had just tremendous mentors. Those
Mm-hmm.
two guys they were awesome, man. They just taught me everything about football, and I just shut my mouth and learned.
No, there's a specific team I want to talk. There's two teams I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
First team being the 2016, which had the number one defense in the NEC conference.
Well, you did your
No,
homework.
all of FCS, not the NEC. The NEC conference championship is a different question.
I'm gonna correct you on that. We were number one in all divisions.
So what made that team what made that defense so special?
I can say this now. I mean, at the time, I thought it, but now I know. I mean, they were just tremendously well coached. They just understood Coach Radakovich's. He ran an NFL style system, so we were really multiple. We ran, so many different fronts and coverages and blitzes, and that was a group that was pretty smart. And so they understood it really, really well, and they were not the biggest group, but they really could run. They had good speed, and we could play man to man. To be honest with you, we could line up play anybody, bump and run man to man, and we pressured teams all the time. And Coach Rab is so well schooled in how to attack pressures. It wasn't just when you learn how to coach, you start to understand how the other half lives and how to attack offenses, and he could do it better than anybody. And we just, man, we were really good, really good.
The other team, well, actually, the next question was, why the decision to leave Robert Morris for St. Francis?
That's a really good question. I usually never get asked that. At the time, Coach Walton had announced that he was going to continue to coach for 2 more years and then retire. So the plan was going to be that I was going to stay, and Coach Benzel was going to, essentially, we knew John was going to be the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And another guy by the name of Scott Ferrison I worked with was going to take over the offense, and then I was going to stay on take over the defense. But I just felt like I needed to prove myself on my own, and I felt like the best way to do that, maybe stupidly at the time, was go to one of the worst college football teams in the country at St. Francis. I mean, we were bad, but there was 2 former guys that I had coached and worked with at Robert Morrison, Jake Nolf and Colin Haw, 2 younger guys that were already at St. Francis. And, they really courted me. They made me feel like they really needed me and they wanted me. And they said, look, we need your help. I think we got a chance to be pretty good here, but we're kind of over our heads at this point. We need somebody to come in and help us. And I got a chance to be the associate head coach as well, because ultimately my goal was to be a head coach. And so I went to St. Francis, and it was probably the best decision I made.
Mm-hmm. Now, backtracking a little bit because I found my other question that I wanted to ask about your time at Robert Morris, specifically that 2006 defense. Rowan, there was a game against Rowan,
Good, you were
and yeah,
doing good, man.
you held them to, as a defense, you held them to minus 39 yards in a game. I don't think that that's something that happens every day for any defense. So I think that's a testament to your what that like you said, that defense could match up with anybody on any given day.
Yeah, I'm very impressed, Carlo. I still have the game ball. All the defensive coaches, I still have the game plan. It's in my office. You know, at that time, Rowan was a D3 power. The year before, they embarrassed us. We were up. That Coach Walton scheduled this. This is a funny story. I'll try to tell it quickly, but Coach Walton came in the office. He goes, I got us a D3 team for an easy win next year. I was like, oh, that's cool, Coach. I said, who'd you get? He said, Rowan. I said, Coach, that's not a good game to play. I said, those guys are good. He's like, they don't have scholarships. I said, Coach, I don't care. They have good. That's a good team. They were the national runner-up the year before. So he's like, oh, he got all flustered, tried to cancel the game, and we couldn't cancel it because there was some, penalty financially. So we played them the year before, and they had two wide receivers that were NFL type guys that were transfers from Rutgers. Typical, small college Division III. You're going to get, talent's everywhere. I've learned that now being here. But anyway, we were up 21-0. They beat us 35-28 in overtime. And they embarrassed us. Well, that year we played them. The very next year, we certainly weren't taking them lightly. Now they graduated two of those receivers, which helped, but we knew we could play a man, and we literally, I think we probably blitzed them 50 some times. I mean, it was unbelievable. They couldn't stop us, and they couldn't protect it. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the game, I knew we put something together on paper because you get the halftime stats. But when Coach Rad was like, well, this is the first for me, and that guy had been coaching 50 years. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't think we've ever had anybody minus 39. And so it was that there was a stretch of 3 games. We had Rowan. It's funny what you remember. Rowan, Butler, and St. Francis. I remember freaking out at St. Francis because they got 2 first downs in a row. I mean, that's how dominant we were. We were we were just playing out, It was
playing.
Fun.
It seems like it was, and when football is being played like that, it's kind of it snowballs. It's a big thing. You get a little bit of momentum, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
So from St. Francis, why was Westminster the right decision?
At that time, again, my goal was to ultimately be a head coach. What I knew of Westminster, now I'm probably dating myself, but there was a TV station in Pittsburgh called KBL. Believe it or not, that's how I remember watching the Mario Lemieux Stanley Cups. But on KBL, they had the NAIA Division II National Championship games on there, which Westminster played. And I had a couple of my buddies, Jeff Sig, who was a Plum guy, went there. Greg Hahn, a Plum guy that went there. So I had some buddies that went up there, and I knew what a great tradition it was. But it was Matt Rach, who was an All-American here. That now Matt at that time, when he recommended for the job, was with, I think he was with the Detroit Lions, and so Matt just said, "Listen, there's a tradition up there like none other. You definitely want to look at it." And I was fortunate enough to come with a good recommendation. And one of my former players that I coached at St. Francis, his mom was on the committee. She was an All-American athlete at Westminster. So it was a great lesson too. You always you got to treat your players well too, because they are the ones that, in my opinion, ultimately got me that job, because Jake's mom knew firsthand how I treated her son. And so she was very pivotal for me in the hiring process. And so, yeah, I got the job, and I've been here for 10 years now.
And pretty successful. I mean, there was some bumpy road there for Westminster, little 5-5, middle of the road as you were coming in. But the program has, under your tutelage, most successful that it's been in the Division III ranks as opposed to the NAIA ranks. Specifically, the last 4 years, 4 straight bowl appearances. Did I get that right? I'm sure. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
17, 19, 21, and 22. I don't count 20 because everybody throw the book out the window for that year.
Right.
What if I'm a parent? What am I getting by sending my child to Westminster?
As I mentioned, I mean, I always talk about the alumni. When you have 6 national championships in your team history and you have all that tradition, what you have is a lot of people that are invested and they want to see it successful. So I'm a prime benefactor of our football alumni. They are so gracious with their time and their resources. There's so much pride involved that they really want to see us be successful. So it's that, to me, it's the old adage of not necessarily what you know, but who you know. That alumni has been instrumental in not only helping me, but helping our players. And I tell parents that all the time. You're now in a different club. You're connected to a special group of people that really care about it. 1, 2, I think we're one of the few that can do academics and athletics successfully. I get a little miffed at, you can't be a great student and be a great football player. I think that's complete nonsense. What I mean by that is, there's a good balance here that, academically it is why you're here, but we don't take a back seat to the football program. I mean, that was the biggest issue I had, Carla, when I got here. Was it was almost like football was a secondary thought to our players, and they weren't willing to sacrifice and do the things that they needed to do to be successful, because they always had this, well, academic. Well, I just didn't buy into that. I said, look, there's no reason why we can't be successful doing both. And I think it is a great opportunity to do that. We have great facilities here. I don't know if you haven't been up here. Man, by the last 5 years we've been here, we have brand new weight room, brand new locker rooms. They've completely redone the field house, brand new turf. It's a really, really, we're really blessed with the facilities up here. The proof is in the buildings, right? You walk around, and so and everything they do up here is first class, which I appreciate. I know you do, because we work just as hard as the guys at Ohio State. So, I mean, I think being treated that well is really, really important. Something as simple as like our editing system for our video system. It's DV Sport. It's high end. It's as good as you're going to get anywhere, even in the NFL. So, I mean, those things to me really, really resonate. It just speaks of a place that really does care. And it's a beautiful place up here. It's sitting up in New Wilmington, which isn't, it isn't Vegas. I promise you that. But
quite the contrary, actually. Right?
Quite the contrary, my friend. That being said, it's a safe environment where my guys just don't get in trouble. It is a weird kind of Happy Valley, Penn State-ish kind of thing. Even the colors are the same, I've always thought that, what a strange coincidence, but it's kind of like a football nomad area up here, and so recruiting wise, it's close to Youngstown. It's District 10 up here, the Whitfield. So it's a really good area to recruit from too.
Now, what are you looking for specifically in a player when you are out recruiting?
Yeah, I wish I had like a canned answer for you. The real answer is, I always play this game. You remind me of this guy, because I've been doing it now for 20 years. My mind references back to former players that worked with at different places or even here, and I'll say, hey, yeah, this kid reminds me of former player here, right? And I'm also kind of looking for a guy that, not number one is he loves football.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, it's a ton of hard work. We're not doing it for the money. I promise you that. You got to have guys that love it and have passion for it. So, you can easily find those guys when you walk around, because those conversations usually, the energy that those types of guys display, you could just tell they love ball, and I connect with them. And those are generally, I don't really care how big, fast, strong you are. Honestly, that's secondary to, if you play with a lot of heart and you're tough, you got a place for me. And so that's been a formula for me that I've used regardless of being here or wherever. It's just, it's a lot of hard work and you got to love it. And so that's number one for me.
Now, broader question, and you've touched on a lot of things here, but what is the importance of Division III? So Division I, Division II, you have the scholarship guys. Because and I know you probably get it as a coach. Oh well, Division III, it's the lack of talent or the lesser talent, which is completely the farthest thing from the truth. But what do you think is the importance with Division III and the 246 institutions that they have?
I mean, the game, football in itself is, we need it so much now more than ever, in my opinion. The lessons that we learn, I mean, before we even started talking about, we went live here or whatever, we were sharing football stories. The lessons that you need is just, to me, it's invaluable. Division III specifically, it is kind of like the Wild West. It's like it's still the old school nature of football. You're not getting guys in year round, so you generally have guys that have to work or do something in the summer. So you have to treat training camp like we probably did back in the day. Like, that's where you get ready, right? That's where you kind of get yourself ready to roll. It is, you mentioned the talent. What I always try to do from a recruiting standpoint is just come see us play. If you come up to the stadium and you actually watch a game, it's amazing how much better that does for me and our coaches in terms of trying to attract student athletes, because there's this perception, oh, it's like 13th year football. It's like high school senior +1. And then they come up and they see that we have two-time All-American that's 6'4", 240 that, can bend and run. And wide receiver that was a 10.43. He finished third in the country in the 100-meter. Like, this kid was 6'2", 200 pounds, like, could fly, So there's talent. It's just, I think the challenge is, to today's environment, is all the kids, they want all the bells and whistles. And this is still an old school mentality, in my opinion. And that's what I love about it.
All right. So now we're going to get more to know you. First off, do you have any particular Coach Ramito story that you would like to share?
Oh man, Coach Rome's. One of my favorite Coach Rome stories is my sophomore year. We played Penn Hills. Penn Hills was, as always back in those days, it was a powerhouse. Coach Rome's he was a tremendous motivator with his words. He was such a good guy at delivering pregame speeches. Well, that week he had made the decision, him and the coaching staff, that we were going to two-platoon our offense and defense, which meant a guy like Vic Flinko, for example, who was a world-class linebacker and one of our running backs, he was only going to play one side of the ball. And it was really smart by Coach Rome's, and it took a little guts, but I think he's probably at that point where, like, I mean, it's Penn Hills. We got nothing to lose. Everybody expect we're going to get crushed. And we beat him. We beat him at Penn Hills. But the speech before the game, I think I still get goosebumps about it, because he played on that we were the underdogs, nobody gives us a chance kind of thing, and they think we're hillbillies from Plum, and all that farm stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and he really had everyone really super fired up. And I didn't even really do anything in that game. I don't even think I got on the field, maybe for special teams or something. But I'll never be more proud of Coach Romito and being a Plum Mustang that day, because we beat the bullies of the Penn Hills, and we had a guy named Luke Linhart who went to Temple and then ended up transferring. I think he finished his career at Slippery Rock, but Luke ran a fake punt, another great call by Rome's, and we scored and ended up winning that game. And I was just so happy, just for us as the Mighty Mustangs. Like, he is a guy that I can honestly tell you, like, there isn't a guy I know that hasn't been coached by Coach Romito that doesn't love him. I mean, he's just a really good guy. He really is.
Mm-hmm. He's one of those people that it's not just about it. It is about football to him, but it's not just about football to him. He cares about you, the person, and be that if you get in trouble or if you're a straight A student, it's a particular conversation to each person. It's not a cookie cutter, cutout, anything like that. So now we got the 4 questions that are just curveballs to get to know you. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I think Australia, for weather, and my grandpa was in the Navy, and so he always told me that the women in Australia were really, really gorgeous. So that's my answer.
What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
Yeah, the most important lesson I've learned over my career is that my players have taught me more lessons than I've taught them. I think it's really, really important that you always have that learner approach. And even though, quote unquote, I'm the teacher, these guys teach me every single day through just being them, and it's been humbling for me, and I'm blessed to have been able to understand that.
Have any of your players got you to do a gritty yet? Is there any grittying going up there in Westminster?
Yeah, nah. You know what's funny? I always laugh at that. I'm not the gritty guy. Like, although I'm not anti-dance, but I think that's silly. I don't know. That's just not me, man. It's not me. Sorry. No gritty.
So this is a 2-parter. Compliment you've ever gotten?
The best compliment I've ever gotten? Oh, jeez. My senior year in college, I was blessed enough to be named the most valuable defensive player. And my head coach at that time, I was waiting for all the hyperboles of he's fast, he's smart, he hits, blah, blah, blah. But at the time, Coach Kimball just said, this is the most consistent guy I've ever been around. And I was like, oh, that's not awesome, But as I've gone older and wiser, that's the best compliment I've ever had. I am that. I am a very consistent person. You're going to get the same guy every single day. And I think that's carried me throughout my life. And
then go to the other side of the spectrum. What is an insult that you're proud
of? I've heard that I've heard I'm a little bit of an asshole, and I think that you being from Plum and having Plum roots can understand this. There is something about our sense of humor or where we grew up that there's a little bit of asshole in us, and it's not in a bad way, but it is like there is something there. I mean, we do take pride in like busting each other's nuts and creating a little bit of havoc and uncomfortableness, all in the name of fun. Like, I
it's
know
the
you
purple
understand.
And gold way. It's the purple and gold way.
I knew you'd understand this. Like, people always talk about what's going on with Pat, like and they're like, oh, he's so funny, and he's awesome, he's hilarious,
He is, but he's just a regular guy.
he reminds me so much of all the guys I grew up with in Plum, that they're that way. It's like McAfee is like, he speaks so much from our, I don't know, the way we are. It's crazy, but you know it.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just how
just
we are.
and we really can't explain it because, like, I've told people, I agree with you. I've told people,
Yeah.
I'm an asshole. When you meet me, you're gonna think I'm an asshole, but I
Yeah.
promise, I'm not doing it to be mean or aggressive. It's
Right.
just where we grew up. That was, you either were an asshole or you got picked on. That was kind of you had to draw a line on where it was going to be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There you go.
the last of the before we get into the final question, the last question is, if you could sit down with three people, it doesn't have historical figures, coaches, etc. If you could sit down with three people and have lunch, who would it be and why?
Man, that's a really pretty cool question. I'd have to want to get my grandfather back. I named my son after my grandfather, so he would be certainly a guy. I just, he was in the Depression era and World War II, and so yeah, for sure, my grandpa. Second guy would be, I love Troy Polamalu. I just think that dude's a football monk. I got a chance to meet him at the Alan Faneca Hall of Fame celebration a couple years back. He's just I don't know, man. He has an aura about him. He's that dude. And then finally, I dig Leo DiCaprio. I think that dude's awesome. I think that guy would be I think he's my age. I just think that dude would be awesome to be around. So there you go. How about that?
That's a good three. That would be an interesting,
totally random.
Be an interesting lunch.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then the final question: is there a question you were expecting me to ask? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Yeah, I was thinking you were gonna ask me what was my best football memory, right? I figured it was a football kind of type of show, right? So I figured that might have been coming, but probably my best football memory was my first game coaching college football. It wasn't as a player, it was actually as a coach. I had a guy, I was coaching defensive backs at Robert Morris, and we were playing Buffalo State, another opening game, and one of my corners had 2 pick sixes in less than 42 seconds. So intercepted one, took one to the house, they kicked off, and they ran a hitch again, and he went to the house. So the game went from 14-14 to like a basic blowout, and I'm sitting up in there going, wow, this is my thing, man. I love this. So it was a tremendous football memory, and it also again reminds me of, it takes one play can totally turn the tide of a game, and yeah, I learned that right away as a new coach doing this. So I don't know, that was a great memory for me.
Well, Coach, I want to say first off, thank you for taking time out of your evening to sit down with us. I will have to make no problem. I will have to make my way up to New Wilmington. It's been years since I saw a Westminster game. The last time I saw you guys play was 2 years ago at Bethany, 3 years ago, whichever I know, because it switches every year, home and away. So the last time I think you guys were, Coach Garvey was still on the sideline. So the last time I was in Westminster, I believe Paul Jones was the quarterback. So yeah, that takes it back.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Listen, you come up here, man. They have great tailgating up here.
I like a good tailgate.
Oh, I know you do. It's pretty cool, man. I would dare say now, I know I'm a homer, but I would say of all the schools in the pack, I think we have hands down the best tailgating for home games. And I challenge you to come see for yourself. You come hang out. You could be on you could be on the sidelines. Hell, if you want to call a couple plays, you can too. So
I like the sound of this. Well, so just so you know, I have a couple. We started bringing some OAC coaches over onto Dingo Talk. So I have a couple. I have to make my way out to Baldwin Wallace, and I have to make my way to Heidelberg. But I never turn down a tailgate, and if I get to call a couple plays, hey, I'm here for it. I'll just stand on the sideline. You don't have to let me call plays, though, Coach. I'm not. We're not there yet.
You're in, buddy. You're in. Whatever you want, man. I've left that. I always have this rogue band of Plum Mustangs that come up every year. All my buddies, and they're always on the sideline. And for some reason, they haven't taken me up on the offer, but I've offered them the same too. So you're in.
It
man,
must be a Plum thing. It's a Plum thing. We don't want to call the plays.
Yeah, they just want a tailgate. Is what they want to do.
Their tailgate, I'm good. That's my stipulation. I want to be at their tailgate.
Yeah, well, hey, they'll know your dad very well for sure. I promise you that. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you, Coach. For those of you that have made it this far, glad to have you with us. We have another segment after this, the editorial with Serenity Brown, where she goes over the episode that you just watched, and we talk about it. We talk about some of the things that we did well, we did poorly on the questions or stats that I missed. But I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. Coach Benzel, thank you again. Good luck this year, and I will see you in the fall.
Thanks, bud. Take care.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Serenity Brown. This is the editorial with Serenity Brown. We just finished watching head coach Scott Benzel of Westminster. Before we get into that, if you made it this far and you want to stay with us, social medias are Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. The only difference is Instagram, dingo_talk. And then the platforms you can find us on is Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, pretty much anywhere you can get your podcasts. But what did you think of this week?
Overall, it was good. I think at the beginning it got better, but there must have been an audio delay coming to him because he would pause in between, like when you ask a question. But later on, it got better. But the one thing I noticed on our end, our audio and visuals were not the quality that we've seen before. Like the video kind of seemed grainy in this one, and the audio seemed to fade and go up and down, and it kind of seemed almost echoey. So I think we'll have to work on that and definitely get better at that.
It was kind of cool to have a Plum Mustang guy that played for the same coach that I played for in high school. And a lot of the things we talked about off camera were, and even the things he mentioned on camera, there's a certain personality type that comes from the borough. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole, I mean, we had a great conversation. This guy, like I said in the intro, and then found out through talking to him, there's really not many places he's gone where he's not been successful coaching-wise.
I think it was really cool how, like, there were certain questions that you asked, and he was like, wow, that's a good question. You're good. Wow.
Every once in a while, it's a nice, us Plum guys, we take care of each other. He's a nice pat on the ego. And we'll definitely be making a trip to, we talked about that off camera. There's a specific game that we'll be making that trek up to Westminster. I think my dad might even come because, again, it's a Plum thing. There's some Plum people. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Just some of the stories, like you're talking about holding a college football team to negative 39 yards total in the whole game. That's not something that you.
Sounds pretty rough.
Yeah, it was a bad day on the other side of it. Like Robert Morris, great time on that sideline. on the Rowan sideline. Not a great
I was a
time.
little hurt.
Not a great time. I don't even think at that point you're not hurt. You just want the game. Like, all right, so let's go. We gotta get on a bus. Let's go home. We can't think. You just can't think about it at that point. Like, wow. And then obviously the 7, 8, 8, 7, 8, 8, and 7 wins in the last 4 years, being as we've had other coaches from the PAC, that upper echelon of the conference is it's something. And Scott Benzel, from the other coaches that I've talked to in the conference, have really, a lot of the coaches I think are offensive minded, where Coach Benzel's not. He's a defensive guy. So it's one of those, when you're across the sideline and you're talking mentality wise, it really is A versus B. So I'm excited to get up to Westminster. That'll be one of the first stops on our PAC trips. But is there anything else you would like to add?
Mm-hmm.
I found something that I thought would be kind of funny just to. This is how we're ending the show. This isn't from when Coach Benzel was playing, but I believe Pat McAfee, this was his senior year or junior year, one of those. Maybe not. I could be wrong on that. I don't even know. It's something that we were cleaning out my dad's garage, and it was one of those things he handed to me. And I think that's a great way to end the show because, Plum memorabilia like my Bethany memorabilia. Nobody else wants it, but I'll take it. So on that note, we'll see you next week. It is a coach, but it's not a PAC coach. Staying in the Whitfield mentality, though, of the past 2 weeks. Serenity Brown, I am Carly Guadagnino. This has been Dingo Talk, and we will catch you next week, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @Dingo Talk.